Everyone thinks they know Seattle. And honestly, there's a reason so many people want to be here. People don't visit Seattle, they get pulled into it. If you're watching this and feeling a little hyped and a little uneasy, good. That is your instinct kicking in. Because Seattle doesn't reward vibe alone. It rewards people who actually get how it works, how days actually move once the novelty wears off. And a place can feel electric at noon, then by 9, you're wondering like, where did everybody go? So you get the point. I've seen people move here convinced they've nailed it. And 6 months later, they're texting me like, okay, am I missing something? And I've seen others land and it just clicks. So if you want the real Seattle, not the Instagram version, not the doom and gloom headlines, not the recruiter pitch, you're in the right place. Because once you understand what actually makes people thrive here, you'll know fast whether this city is your place or not. All right, quick reset. If you've been around here for a minute, you know I don't talk about this city in theory. I've watched this play out too many times to romanticize about it. I've talked about it from watching people actually live here. I've seen the excitement phase, the honeymoon phase, and then that quiet moment when someone realizes daily life in Seattle hits different than whatever version that was in their heads. Seattle isn't hard to love, it's hard to misunderstand. Most people, the frustration comes from misreading the city, not the city itself. This city has layers. You don't feel them all at once. You earn them doing normal daily life. Standing in the line with a wet, damp jacket, the low hum of traffic on wet pavement, coffee in hand, errands around the Ballard Bridge without even thinking about it. Everything starts to make sense because the first surprise people isn't the rain or the prices, it's how everyday life here quietly rewrites your expectations after the honeymoon phase wears off. Here's the switch that flips for most people. The honeymoon version of Seattle is loud in all the right ways. The views hit, the neighborhoods feel alive, every weekend is intentional, and then real life shows up on a random Tuesday and you realize this city doesn't perform for you, it expects you to participate. Seattle isn't about constant stimulation, it's about rhythm. Daily life here has structure and texture. It's quieter than most people expect, especially at night. Social plans are intentional, not spontaneous. You don't just bump into people unless you already decided where you're going and why. And that's not a downside, that's a filter. The University of Washington research literally ties Seattle's climate and social structure to a better outcome for people who build routines early and higher frustration for people who wait for the city to do the work for them. People who strive here don't fight the city, they sync with it. They hike on the weekday evenings. They plan dinners a week out. They find their third place and guard it like gold. That's where the city opens up. If you're waiting for Seattle to feel like a party, you're going to get frustrated. Seattle is not a one decision city. It's a two-move city, meaning the first place you live here is rarely the place you stay. And that's not because you messed up, it's because your first move is about orientation, your second move is about alignment. Most relocators don't know the rules yet, so they choose what feels easiest to understand, walkable, busy, branded, a place like Capitol Hill or South Lake Union. Honestly, that makes sense. Those neighborhoods explain themselves fast. You can walk out your door, see people, grab food, plug in. It feels like, okay, I get this city. But then something shifts, usually somewhere between year 1 and year 3, priorities change. That's when the second move happens, towards places like Ballard, West Seattle, or Green Lake. Neighborhood locals love this because they've already learned the rhythm. Here's where people get tripped up. They assume that their first neighborhood they chose has to be perfect. It doesn't. It just has to be right for you for now. The mistake is treating this first choice like it's your forever decision. Seattle rewards people who allow themselves to learn the city before locking in. The ones who struggle are usually the ones who expect instant mastery. This city doesn't work like that. It teaches you in layers. And once you understand that Seattle is a two-move city, a lot of frustration would disappear. Let me put you inside of it instead of trying to explain it. It's February weekday in Seattle. Not stormy, not dramatic, just gray that never quite lifts. The city sounds muted, like someone's turned down the volume but left the bass. Pavement stays damp all day. Seattle averages roughly 230 overcast days a year, and your nervous system notices that long before you do. Your brain does. Your energy stops coming from the environment and starts coming from structure. Newcomers feel the shift most in their first winter here, but the measurable well-being improves for people who lock in routines early. Not motivation, routines. You notice it in how locals move. Nobody's wandering aimlessly. People are doing exactly what they plan to do, then going home. Here's the part that surprises people once you adapt. Winter doesn't feel heavy, it feels focused. Fewer distractions, cleaner days, less noise. The city gives you enough quiet for you to settle inside yourself or realize you don't like being alone with your thoughts. Same weather, total different outcomes. Seattle isn't draining, it's honest. It shows you how to operate when external energy gets stripped away. And once you've adjusted to the rhythm, once your energy matches the environment, another reality becomes impossible to ignore. Seattle quietly forces trade that most people don't model correctly at first. You're not choosing price versus size, you're choosing time versus space. In the urban core, time, neighborhoods like Capitol Hill, Fremont, and Ballard are built around friction and reduction. You're paying for compression, smaller homes, tighter storage, and fewer parking guarantees, but your days stay intact. Urban studies out of the University of Washington show households in dense, mixed Seattle neighborhoods drive roughly 30 to 40% fewer miles than the outer core areas. You feel busy, but not scattered. Shift a little further and the equation changes. Places like Bellevue and Kirkland buy you space and predictability, bigger homes, better parking, more control, but time becomes a managed resource. Every errand is a decision. Every commute is scheduled. This setup works beautifully for people who like structure and repetition. It gets frustrating fast for people who crave flexibility. Push even further and the trade sharpens. Gig Harbor, Bunny Lake, Snohomish, they maximize space, lower prices, privacy control, and you have less stress. You know, things are just like quieter if that's the life that you like. That is the trade-off. Here's the mistake people make. They shop the decision to buy a house emotionally. They tour bigger homes and imagine quieter days. But Seattle doesn't price homes by square footage alone. It prices them by how much your life you get back. Once you understand the time-space trade, your housing search gets sharper. You stop asking, how much house can I afford? And then you start asking, how much daily friction can I tolerate? By now, a pattern should be forming, and it's not about Seattle at all. This is the part newcomers underestimate. On paper, your commute might look fine. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, easy. In real life, this city is built on water, bridges, hills, choke points, which means one stalled bus or a light drizzle at the wrong moment can quietly hijack your day entirely. A drive from Ballard to the east side or from the west side to Seattle towards downtown is not just a commute, it's a commitment. Seattle commute can vary by 2 times day to day, even when the distance stays identical. This is why locals obsess over reliability. The light rail doesn't always make the trip faster, it makes them knowledgeable. That's the win. Living near the station or the light link hubs like Northgate shifts the mental math. You trade flexibility for certainty. And for a lot of people, especially those coming from car-heavy cities, that predictability feels like a relief. Here's where assumption gets challenged. People think shorter commutes automatically mean happier days. Seattle flips that. Reality builds proximity. A longer and consistent route often feels easier than a short one that explodes without any warning. That's why commutes, especially Seattle to the east side or north to the south side, burn people out faster than expected. The stress comes from not knowing which version of the trip you're going to get today. This hidden mental note shapes everything else. It influences where people move. It impacts whether the bigger house feels worth it. Seattle rewards people who choose commute logic first and lifestyle second, not the other way around. This city doesn't drain your wallet evenly. It applies pressure in very specific places. And if your lifestyle lines up, those costs stop feeling like friction and start feeling like fuel. Housing is the obvious headline. Prices are still high, but the chaos has somewhat cooled down. Inventory is hovering closer to a balanced market at roughly 3 to 4 months of supply, which is a totally different world than the feeding frenzy people remember. Buyer data shows people wanting the right neighborhood fit, light rail access, daily life efficiency overall, square footage and flash. That's why smaller places in Ballard or near Green Lake can feel worth every dollar, while a much bigger home further out suddenly feels exhausting instead of exciting. Seattle still ranks in the top tier nationally for tech, biotech, and engineering wages. That's the part headlines miss. This city is forgiving when your income is anchored and predictable. Same city, very different experiences. It shows up in real places: Ballard Side Street, West Seattle coffee shops. Everyday cost tells the same story. Groceries run higher, utilities cost more, eating out adds up fast. Child care is its own line. Rent growth in 2026 is projected around 3 to 4% higher than the national average. Translation: Seattle isn't spiraling, it's holding, and lifestyle alignment changes how that feels. People who arrive hoping the city will make up for the cost usually stay irritated. People who move here because the environment supports how they work, think, and live tend to stay loyal. The city isn't cheap, it's selective. If the lifestyle fits, the cost feels intentional. If it doesn't, it feels reckless. That's the difference between feeling priced out and feeling invested. And once that clicks, the conversation stops being about numbers and turns into something more revealing. Here's the truth that ties all of this together. Seattle doesn't reward curiosity, it rewards clarity. Once you understand that everything you just watch just clicks into place, none of those are problems, they're filters. We see this play out all the time. We've helped buyers who rushed in, picked a neighborhood off the vibe, and a year later realized the city wasn't wrong, they just skipped the learning process. And if you're relocating, buying, or rethinking where you want to live, this is guidance. We are your local real estate team of choice. Our job is to help people get this right before it becomes too expensive. Our information is in the description. Call, text, or email us anytime. And if you want to keep going, head straight to our playlist. The next video breaks down where people actually put down roots once everything you just learned starts guiding decisions instead of guesswork. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. If this helped you see Seattle in a clearer light, I'll catch you on the next one.